You have to pay your staff for training.
What?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Do. Yeah, absolutely.
I heard that that's not true.
Oh yeah, tell me more.
I don't know. So if it is a required training, you are absolutely required to pay them. So this would be paying for the training. So let's say their CPR and first aid is expired and they need to redo it. You would need to pay for the cost of the training, and also you have to pay them for the time it takes to do the training. So many trainings you have to redo every 1 year, 2 years. I don't know about CPR
On a
every 2 years.
frequent. Well, I think it depends.
Okay.
It depends on the program.
So you're going to have to, crisis intervention training. You typically have to redo HIPAA training, mandated reporter training, fire and evacuation
and
training.
Just for good practices, like your own policies and procedures, especially as things are updated.
Yes.
They're not saying you have to go through the entire thing every year, but there should be some kind of maintenance and making sure that people are, remembering what's most important and being trained, receiving training on any new procedures or policies that have come up.
Yep. And so like if and again, when I'm talking to some business owners, whether they mean to do this or not, it is something that it can affect your staff's morale. And if they feel as though the training is either too burdensome, it's too time consuming, this is what they think management's perspective is. It's too costly. These are things that you don't want your staff thinking, training is, the last thing I need to worry about. I only need to worry about billable hours. I am going to assume that many people listening to this, I hope all the people listening to this, feel like we don't want to focus on billable hours. That should not be our focus. We need to focus on it, but it shouldn't be our primary focus. But if you are, giving the idea that training's too expensive, it's too time consuming, it takes too much of my time, it takes too much of my staff's time, I need to get them with clients as quickly as humanly possible. It's setting you up for maybe a situation that you don't intend to be in. So, having a focus on training and letting your staff know that it is really important to be up to date on policies and procedures, to make sure that their CPR and first aid is not expired, and that they should be looking and researching for new trainings that may be effective, with staff for ongoing growth, right? So,
Yeah, and even, like I already said, like the clinical piece we're kind of on top of, but I know that, I can't remember when it starts, when it's effective, but CEUs for RBTs are going to be rolling in here soon. And so, even thinking about now, that's a little bit different. It's not if it's not a required training for the job, then you don't have to pay for it. However, it is required for BCBAs, and it will be required for RBTs to have a certain level of CEUs to keep their certification.
Right.
So could that be a job requirement? I mean, I guess that's where there's a gray area.
Yeah, so
but I would, if at all possible, being able to reimburse or have an amount per person that they can put towards CEUs, especially as RBTs are going to have to start taking these. I mean, that could be quite costly.
Yes.
For, I don't remember how many, and hopefully I'm sure a lot of companies will be rolling out affordable CEUs, but still it's an extra cost, right? It's an extra thing. So keeping that in mind as well, because we all, we want to be learning and growing as a field. And that's important as well. And that can benefit your company.
Yeah. And so talking to an attorney about what is required training and do I have to pay for CEUs? But yeah, like you said, April, like having some kind of an amount in the system, like we'll pay up to $100 for CEUs or whatever it is. That may be something that, again, it emphasizes that you want to invest in your staff, and growing and learning is important. So having those systems in place can be helpful.
And hopefully at this point, if you're operating, 3 to 5 years, you have a decent handle on your finances, and there's in business, there's always ups and downs, but you can have a good idea of how many hours a month in general that you can afford training, like non-billable, like training that's you can't bill for at the time, and prioritize. And some groups decide to, especially like maybe if they're clinic based, they may decide to close one day a quarter, or a couple of hours a month, to have group training so that they can just, for the most part, get everyone done at the same time. That's already within their paid for work day. Right. And, or maybe even some virtual team meeting training type things that they do on a certain frequency, to kind of catch certain phases of employees. There are ways to creatively do it. There are ways to also add in some fun, like try to, and I know it's an extra expense, but even if it's as minimal as providing some snacks, right, for the team, or maybe putting together a 15-minute game. I know some people are like rolling their eyes and they hate those kind of games, but that you're just part of it too, is like building that team, especially if you're in-home services. You may think, well, where would I have if you don't have an office setting, where would I have a group training? Where could we go? That's an added expense if we have to like rent a room or something, right? So I get it. There's a lot involved, but this should also, and now I'm speaking to those new business owners or people thinking about becoming a business owner, these are just all expenses and things that you need to think about when you're starting, because this is part of it. Yeah. You have to support your staff. You have to offer training, and you want to do a good job at it because you want to be able to provide quality services.
Right. And then there are some people that are like, I've done paying for RBT training, for example, on new hires. And I totally get that. And, you can obviously set it up so that you require that they're certified before hiring. But if you bring on a BT knowing that they are not an RBT, and it is required by your funders to be an RBT, you do have to pay for that. It is a requirement.
Right. Like maybe you brought them on to be under a certain insurance that didn't require, and then you realize, oh, this isn't really working out. I'm going to need them to be an RBT. Yes. And then it's your responsibility to provide that and pay for it.
So, it's just something to be aware of. And so I see some people will, say, okay, well, you have to get your RBT training before you can be hired. And that's fine. Just know that they can then just take that wherever they want. So, and in this environment where it's really hard to find employees, that's just something you gotta think about.
Right. And one of my best practices anyways, and something that we did within our company, was even if they came to us as an RBT, whether they were just freshly received their RBT on their own or through another company, or whether they'd been an RBT for 10 years. We did the same for BCBAs as well. Right. But we still went through like a little quick assessment to kind of see where they are, to do those competency checks and to do like a quick knowledge and fluency check. And most of the time, we still needed to add in training there too, to make sure that they were up and running, because we wanted them to be at a certain level before they met the client.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And your training may be different than other people's training. You may work with a different population with different needs. And so, having that specialized training from your company can be very helpful.